Steeler Nation family, I am giving you guys all this why to be excited and why this is going to be like those two could go crazy. And Aaron's has some great receivers, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't had to do like this either. I'm watching them at practice, and it wasn't all perfect. They're still working through things, you know. When they get going,
really,
I'm telling you, it's going to be something special. If he can have the time to throw the ball, you're going to see some crazy stuff happen. There are some weapons, and Johnny Smith didn't even practice. And talking to Coach T, he's like, Ben.
Really?
He gives me that Ben. Doesn't really give me anything, just get Ben. Ben.
Now, I'm an active listener, and he said, if he has time to throw the ball, just that little caveat.
That if is doing God's work in that sentence.
Okay. Yes. Kimberly, I'm starting with you. Hi, Mina's back here with us. Are we sleeping on these Steelers heading into the season? Because I feel like we're living in a world of extremes with our expectations for this team.
So I might say something that will blow Cece's mind. Maybe the Steelers are the team we're sleeping on the most. And the reason I say that is because we look at the
snoring on.
He's asleep on the Steelers. I think because when I look at this team, what's the expectations for Aaron Rodgers? What does he need to do? I don't need vintage Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to get that. I think, Mina, you mentioned sort of like point guard type of QB play. We just want competent quarterback play for the Steelers because they haven't had it in years past, and they've still managed to eke into the playoffs. So I think when you look, again, the ceiling and the floor, I think this is a team that people are sleeping on because we think Aaron Rodgers will be so bad. But what if he's decent? I think Mike Tomlin has made it work with a lot less.
When was the last time?
I think the idea that they're going to suddenly be better than they've been in the past few years is based on the false belief that you're getting Rodgers, who I mentioned earlier, Kimberly, that he just needs to be competent. That's fine. But even if he is, let's say he is average and it's a point guard, the run game looks a little better, we still think this team can go toe-to-toe against the Bills, the Chiefs. I do not think so. I also struggle to see how the defense, by the way, has fixed the issue I talked about earlier, the struggles versus Baltimore in big games. It's a fine team. I don't know what to say. I know that's not an exciting take, but they're okay. And I think it's fair to say they're okay, and I think that is the most common perception of this squad.
I never want to be described as, it's a fine team. with Mina in that tone. She's a fine host. She's fine. So politically.
That's like saying they got a good personality.
Politically correct.
The Steelers have a good personality.
That's
the word. Or when they're nice. They're nice. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't correct me if I'm wrong. You think they're gonna suck? You think they're gonna be bad?
I don't think they're gonna be very good. I think we're looking at Mike Tomlin's first losing season in 19 years of being the head coach in Pittsburgh.
Can I just ask you one question before you expound on that? To Mina's point, I'm curious. Say we put one of the top quarterbacks in the league on this team, right? Pick whoever you want. How far is this team going? How good is this team? Forget the Aaron Rodgers piece and all of it, because we're putting it all on him, but it's a team sport.
Yeah, I think there's some age regression on the defensive side of the ball, and they've tried to address that, especially in the secondary. They bought over Juan Thornhill in free agency, and so we'll see how that ends up happening. I think it's a net neutral to swap out for Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick. I probably would have kept Minkah, but they made the decision to do that because they wanted to bring Jonnu Smith on the offensive side of the ball as well. I just don't see how this situation that Aaron Rodgers is parachuting into from a personnel standpoint is going to be markedly better than what he had with the New York Jets over the last couple of years.
Interesting.
You're basically banking the improvement that you're going to see in Rodgers and the improvement in the overall team success on the reputation of Mike Tomlin. And I'm sorry, that's just not enough based on what I've seen last year and over the last half decade. It hasn't been good from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 5 straight games to end last season. I get people talking about the numbers that Aaron Rodgers had, 3,700 yards passing, 28 touchdowns. Well, here's the thing. Between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the same type of production when it comes to total touchdowns. So I just don't know that it's going to be better, and I do think you have the chance that it could be significantly worse.
Kimberly, I got something for you. You respond, but I want to get into Mike Tomlin.
No, you talk about what they were last year. Did they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Like, at the end of the day, you can say what you want about the standard should be higher. I 100% agree the standard in Pittsburgh should be higher. We shouldn't be looking at Mike Tomlin and non-losing seasons as the metric. But again, he has done better with worse. So when I look at Aaron Rodgers, I understand he's going to be 42 December 2nd or whatever it is. I understand he's older. I get it. But I'm not expecting MVP Aaron Rodgers. But I also have seen this team. I've been around the AFC North a lot.
She has. I can co-sign that.
I have seen this Steelers team with Ben Roethlisberger on one leg literally limp into the play. I've seen it happen. So my thing is, based off of that, if Aaron Rodgers is competent and somewhat good, and DK, my only thing with DK is I think he's phenomenal, but who's on the other side? If I'm a defense, it's okay, cut that off. Make sure you figure out how to neutralize DK if you can, and then make them, stop the run game or whatever. But I just don't think they have enough weapons on offense. I think that's part of it also.
Mina, let me come to you on this, because we all know Mike Tomlin. He's revered, respected around the league, never had a losing season, and the longevity and consistency that he's had. But do you feel like he is on the hot seat? They could potentially be looking at a new voice there.
I do, and I want to be clear, that's not completely an indictment on Mike Tomlin. This is kind of a two things can be true situation. He can still be a phenomenal coach who would be desired by more than half of the league if he was a free agent, and he might not be the right coach for this version of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because, Kimberly talked about them limping into the playoffs. That just feels like it's been the story of this team forever. And if you made the switch, I'm not saying that you would see immediate improvement. You probably wouldn't. It would probably get worse before it gets better. But it's possible that he is better suited to coach a team with an established quarterback situation. Whereas this team, it feels like if they don't make any noise this year, and I say making noise, I'm not talking about having a winning record, they would be best served by ripping the Band-Aid and really rethinking what they're doing at quarterback. Because with Tomlin, I think you've seen just that slightly above average record long enough to feel like it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for what the Pittsburgh Steelers want. And if you look at the track record of the organization, this is around the time in a coach's tenure where they look to move on, right? You go from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to now Mike Tomlin. You're talking about right around that 2 decades mark. Before the organization is bringing in a new voice to be the head coach. And so I do think it's that time. And beyond that, I think the track record is the track record, right? Mike Tomlin ain't won a playoff game since Barack Obama was in office, right? He's got the third.
I love when we bring up the president.
He's third all time in the most consecutive seasons without a playoff win behind Jim Mora and Marvin Lewis. He's second all time with 8 one-and-done postseason appearances, trailing only Marty Schottenheimer. That's not the company that you want to be in. So I do think it's time for a new voice. You couple that with the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are likely going to be in the quarterback business next year's NFL draft. It just makes sense to align the organization, new head coach, new quarterback, and move forward. It could be reminiscent of what happened with Andy Reid in the Philadelphia Eagles. They moved on from Andy Reid. Didn't mean that Andy Reid still couldn't coach. But it was the right thing for the organization in terms of transitioning, turning that thing over. They ended up winning a couple of Super Bowls after that. So I think it could be a similar scenario for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Don't think he's going to get fired. They would frame it as a mutual parting of ways, but it could be time for them to move on in Pittsburgh.
You might be right. Two things could be true. If Mike Tomlin doesn't want to go anywhere, I don't see Mike Tomlin going anywhere. I feel like he's the one head coach in the NFL where things are different. And the fans have been talking about him for years, wanting him out, and it hasn't happened. I think he should want out. He should have wanted out a couple of years ago after Big Ben, but he didn't. So I think
Steelers Nation, welcome back to Steelers Nation Wire. Today, we've got a conversation that hits at the core of what this team is going to be in 2025. And honestly, it's one of the most debated topics in the entire NFL right now. The national media, the insiders, the fans, everybody is asking, are we sleeping on the Pittsburgh Steelers this season? Or are we staring down the possibility of the first losing record under Mike Tomlin in nearly 2 decades? Let's break this down. First, let's talk Aaron Rodgers. every conversation about the Steelers this offseason has circled back to him. And look, we all know Rodgers' resume, a future Hall of Famer, a 4-time MVP, one of the most gifted throwers of the football we've ever seen. But at the same time, he's not 2011 Aaron Rodgers anymore. He's about to turn 42, he's on a new team, in a new system, and unlike his stop with the Jets, he doesn't have that comfort blanket of ex-Packers receivers to build instant chemistry with. No Cobb, no Lazard, no Adams. Instead, he's working with DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Jaylen Warren. On paper, that's a dangerous set of weapons. DK is a physical freak who can change games. Smith and Freiermuth together might be one of the most versatile tight end tandems in the AFC. And Warren has shown flashes of being a legit workhorse after taking the mantle from Najee Harris. If Rodgers can get time in the pocket, you could see some fireworks. But that if is massive. 4 of the 5 projected starting linemen have been in the league for 2 years or less. That's not experience, that's a liability. Protecting a 42-year-old quarterback is not the same as protecting a 25-year-old. And if Rodgers takes too many hits, this whole plan can unravel by mid-season. Now, let's move to the narrative that ESPN and other outlets have been hammering. Are we overrating Rodgers' impact? Some analysts are saying he doesn't need to be MVP Rodgers. He just has to be competent, like a point guard, distributing the ball, limiting turnovers, and letting the defense carry the load. But is competent enough in the AFC? Think about it. You've got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, teams that can drop 30 points in a blink. Defense alone doesn't win in 2025, not in this conference. And that brings us to Mike Tomlin. 17 seasons, 0 losing records. That streak is the badge of honor Steelers fans love to point to, and rightfully so. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He hasn't won a playoff game since Barack Obama was president. That's almost a decade of falling short when it matters most. 8 one-and-done playoff appearances. 3rd all-time in consecutive seasons without a playoff win. That is not the company a franchise like Pittsburgh wants to keep. Some analysts are starting to say out loud what's been whispered for years. Maybe Tomlin isn't the right coach for this version of the Steelers. That doesn't mean he's a bad coach. He'd have a line of suitors around the block if he ever hit the open market. But sometimes a team and a coach just reach the end of the road together. Look at Andy Reid in Philly. Is Pittsburgh hitting that point with Tomlin? Possibly, especially when you consider the team is very likely going to be in the quarterback business again next year. Aligning a new coach with a new quarterback in the 2026 draft might be the clean slate this franchise needs. But here's the counterpoint. Tomlin has done more with less before. We've all seen him drag teams into the postseason that had no business being there. We've seen him squeeze every ounce of competitiveness out of rosters that were broken, aging, or flat out bad. And if Rodgers gives him even league average quarterback play, maybe he pulls it off again. Maybe he buys himself another year, another shot to prove he can take this team further. Steelers Nation, here's the bottom line. This season is about much more than just Rodgers. It's about whether Tomlin's voice still resonates in that locker room. It's about whether this defense can stay healthy and dominant for 17 games. It's about whether a young offensive line can grow up fast enough to protect a quarterback who doesn't move like he used to. And most importantly, it's about proving that the standard is the standard still means something. So I want to hear from you. Do you believe Aaron Rodgers is the missing piece to push the Steelers back into real AFC contention? Or do you think this is the year that the streak ends and we see the first losing season under Mike Tomlin? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you bleed black and gold, and make sure you subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire so you don't miss any of our daily breakdowns. This is going to be one of the most pivotal seasons in franchise history, and we're going to be here for every twist, every headline, and every snap. Steelers Nation, it's your turn. Is this the start of something special or the beginning of the end?